Welcome back, Red Spotters. Another show here on the Red Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Alexis Soto, and I'm joined by Mr. Peter Martinez. Finally, we're able to record. We have been delayed for about a week. We had intended to do most of the show before, but we had experienced some pretty freaky technical issues, and I think that's saying something from our standards because technical issues are not necessarily out of the norm in our company. But anyway, we are here, of course, with Red Spotlight number 315, talking about the latest stories coming out of the world of movies. Of course, including the big debut of Godzilla vs. Kong, not only at the box office and what that means for future releases, but also its performance on HBO Max, which has spurred this really interesting conversation about the future of release strategies on the part of the distributors. And of course, how the fallout thereafter. We also have new deals being made in the form of Netflix and Sony. Netflix evidently is paying some big bucks to Rian Johnson for the Knives Out story we had told you of earlier. There have been some new box office projections on favorable box office projections on Black Widow for its theatrical release. Dune, Peter's favorite movie of the year, as it will be. Dune, whenever it becomes available released to watch. Right. Evidently, Warner Brothers has not made up their minds about what is going to happen to Dune, in whether it'll be available day and date on HBO Max or an exclusive theatrical release. Warner Brothers and Cineworld have reached a multi-year deal, which signals that for 2022, Warner Brothers is returning to a theatrical-only run for a 45-day window. And some sad news in terms of some pretty historic sites in Los Angeles for cinemas. ArcLight and Pacific Theaters have closed, and everyone who is a fan of movies is in a mourning of sorts. So those are the stories this week, as well with some of the new trailers that did come out. As a reminder, if you want to catch new episodes in terms of what we feel of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, well, we have that every single week with me and David Francisco. We're enjoying it very much. I think it's fair to say that most of our panel, if not all of our panel here on Red Spotlight, is very much enjoying this show. So you can catch that every single week. Peter, how are you doing this week? Are you excited to be back after the hellish week we endured trying to get this call to even work?
Yeah, I mean, technology was supposed to simplify things, right?
It was, actually.
I don't know where it went wrong then.
Yeah, that's kind of life. And I also want to make sure to plug Fantasy Fair Podcast. I was recently featured on the show discussing some of the alleged new projects coming to the Disneyland Resort. I say alleged because it all seems to be more or less kind of a lie that people are buying at face value when the announcement of something called Disneyland Forever, not Forever, excuse me, Forward. And yeah, if you want to hear me with Alexis Moreno and Kyle Lira, we'll be there. Fantasy Fridays. Peter, before we get into some of the stories here, let's get into what we saw this week. What have you been up to? What have you been watching?
I mean, still watching Invincible. Watching The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I've been mostly reading.
Interesting. What have you been reading?
Comics.
The Invincible comics?
kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's let me see. I can tell you what I've read. Read Old Man Logan, Invincible, Compendium 1, Saga, Book 1. It's really good. Secret Wars, The Killing Joke, Mr. Miracle, Hellboy. Yeah, I've been mostly doing reading, and then
Good.
like for regular books, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I've never read before, but British people swear by it, so I was like, okay. Oh well, I'll read. It's kind of funny so far.
Believe it or not, you are not the first person to bring up reading on what we saw this week. I think it was David that brought up reading the Kyoshi books that he bought a few months back.
Yeah. I guess because me and David are Gen Z, we're a little bit more refined intellectually, you know. We're just built different, is all I'm trying to say. You wouldn't understand.
You were saying?
That was it.
Wonderful. So I have, as far as the things that I have been watching, just continuing into my insanity of sitcoms. Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just heard a noise. It sounded like something.
I'm just
died or
dying.
something.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, we can manage that. I finished Modern Family. I finished 11 seasons, and that was pretty. Wow. I can't remember the last time I watched 11 seasons of something. And then I moved from the 2010s to the 1990s to Fran Drescher's classic The Nanny, which coincidentally really became available on HBO Max as I was finishing that Modern Family rewatch. And I'm currently well into season 4. By the way, if you hear some noises in the background, keep in mind that Mr. Martinez lives with an animal, so there are things that you will hear. And
I'm sorry. Hold on. She's just fucking...
Go ahead.
I'm gonna kill this cat.
Go ahead. By all means, kill it. I'm kidding.
Okay. I think she's okay.
Yes, so I'm well into season 4, and it's just bringing back all these wonderful memories. Again, that's one of those shows that I had not seen in over a decade, and I'm reminded of how hilarious it is and heartwarming it is. So, like, comfort TV, very underrated, I feel. So, that's where I am.
Let me guess. Your favorite character is Niles? Or the butler?
Is it? I think Fran's my favorite character.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I love all of them.
You just...
But I mean, Niles is great, yeah.
You usually gravitate to that sort of character.
Well, it would be in the case of Frasier. That Niles. For sure. Which may be what's next for me. I haven't made up my mind yet. Because, like, Frasier is a seamless transition from the 90s to the 2000s.
A while ago, I was going to watch the Frasier. But then I remembered he started on Cheers. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll watch Cheers first. Mm-hmm. And then I realized all of TV is interconnected in some way. And my brain broke. And I just walked away.
Luckily, I don't think like that. Like, Cheers is great. I love it. It also has quite a bit of episodes. And I guess like because Cheers is very 80s. If I were to go with 80s, I would go with Golden Girls.
Is Golden Girls like 80s?
It is. It is late 80s, early 90s.
I was gonna say it's late 80s.
Mm-hmm. Some of these are transitional, and the nanny is like the early to late 90s. Frasier started in the early 90s, I think, and then ended in the early 2000s. So like,
I don't know, like, I don't know the full extent of your. You claim to have the sitcom cred, but I don't know the full extent.
I didn't say I had sitcom cred. I just said that I loved sitcoms, and I watched a lot.
I'm just trying to gatekeep here,
but I never claimed. I know that's what you're doing, you asshole. That's why I'm trying to push back from your ridiculous claim. I never claimed at all to say that I was the expert on them. For example, and I guess this would be a way to out myself. I am curious as I'm making my way back to the decades. I am not sure because I hear there are a lot of episodes, but I have to think they're both readily available to watch on Hulu. I haven't checked, but I haven't seen Bewitched or Dick Van Dyke Show, and I'm very interested in seeing them.
Oh, man. You're despicable. I like Dick Van Dyke more than Bewitched. Bewitched is cute, but I like the Dick Van Dyke Show better. Yeah, but no, both of those are good. Bewitched I think is more similar to something like I Dream of Jeannie. Just I guess in the wife with magical powers,
right?
Outfit. But I think, and I assume you've seen all these because you're a fan of the creator. But like, All in the Family, Good Times.
Yeah.
Have you seen these?
I've seen some of them, not the whole things. Those were like the 70s is the decade where I have the weakest as far as foundation on. Yeah,
that's the weakest. It might be like the best era. I don't know. Three's Company. Have you ever seen Three's?
I've seen a lot of Three's Company. Okay. Yes.
Come and knock on our door.
Who could forget that? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's about. I've seen a lot of the old ones. I remember I'd watch like the Beverly Hillbillies, anything that was on TV Land, I'd watch.
Yeah,
if it was on TV Land, I'd watch it.
Interestingly, I guess it's because Viacom, CBS, Nickelodeon, Nick at Night, that was all connected. But I didn't realize how much The Nanny actually referenced Nick at Night. But I'm like,
what do you mean?
There was The Nanny in the episodes themselves, in the scripts, there was like throwaway jokes to Nick at Night, like actual mentions to Nick at Night, and then it would air at Nick at Night.
Oh my god!
In reruns, yeah.
She's a regular old Deadpool.
I know, like I assumed, and I know that the show originally aired on CBS. I have to feel right, and then. In reruns, this is where I found the show. It was on Nick at Night.
Yeah. There's a. I guess I'm too young to remember, but there's a lot of the way TV used to work that I don't entirely remember.
Yeah.
Like I think I remember, but this was when I was very young. That Disney Channel. At night, used to run classic Mickey Mouse cartoons.
Did they?
I swear I think I remember this. But it was when I was very young. And then soon after they stopped. They needed more whatever they're doing. But I could have swore that's similar to something like Nick at Night or... a lot of other channels where the programming changes once the sun goes down. That they would run a lot of those old, but I don't even remember. So I don't know.
Yeah, so decisions to make as far as that, but I still need to wrap around real quick to some other shows that I need to get to, like Curb and Rick and Morty. So a lot of TV to watch. A lot of TV. So that's what we saw this week. Peter, so there have been a couple of trailers. We had talked in a few episodes ago, I think David and we discussed at length Black Widow and Loki. Do you have any thoughts on those trailers?
Loki looks better than I originally thought. It looks like they're doing some interesting stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
I like some of the weird humor.
Yeah.
It's kind of pulling from like Ghostbusters, Men in Black type humor, whereas like the mundane set against the surreal kind of thing, where it's like a regular office with like a cat, and then it's like, okay, here's sign that this is everything that you've ever said in your entire life. And he says, what? And then he waits for the facts to come out. Initial here, please. Of that one, of him saying that one like what? And I'm like, okay, that's funny. Yeah, and it kind of, it seems like they're doing the thing that I would have preferred for Endgame, which is just hopping through different realities. Like, clearly...
Don't worry. You're going to get that reality hopping pretty soon in Spider-Man 3. You're going to get exactly what you wanted, Peter.
It. I hate you. Oh, God. It hurts because there's an all-time great Spider-Verse film out there. And now we're going to just get the one that everyone's going to... Oh, my God. Can you believe that they're all... And their brains are going to fry, and I'm just going to be the one sourpuss in the corner going, I hate this. But no, like, he clearly goes to different realities and different worlds. One of them is clearly like a apocalypse Earth. I don't know if it's like if the Avengers lost, or I don't know. But it looks interesting. I like the idea of teaming him with, what's his name, Owen Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an inspired choice.
It really is.
Yeah, but overall, it looks neat. Very, very neat.
There was some real great work with music in that trailer. Like the opening, like bits of it were like kind of, I don't know, it was... I don't know what the effect of it was. It just kind of like entranced you a little bit. But I agree though that Loki show is looking better and better, and like, man, I'm just kind of here with my jaw on the ground, you know, like, who would have thought? I mean, you and I were casting so much doubt on the Disney Plus shows, WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Loki, yet here we are, a complete about face on just about all fronts.
Yeah, I should have never trusted your opinion.
Oh, fuck off. If anything, I was taking your lead. Asshole.
No, I hated the idea of these shows. And
yes. But
that does show, like, I keep saying this, like, I don't hate things just to hate them. I could
Who said that?
Oh, you guys imply. The death of hope has a lot of implications. I will tell you that.
You know what's hilarious about that name?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even intend for that to be something that stuck.
You kept saying it.
I haven't called you that in a while. The one who's been, beating that drum has been Kyle. But actually, that was the reason why I called you that, because another podcast that I watch, it's a video podcast. It is Unplugged.
Oh, wow.
The host is Pete Warner, and his producer is Craig Williams, and they have a similar relationship to ours, where the minute they disagree, all bets are off, and it can get pretty heated and dramatic easily. And at one point, Pete coined the term "the death of hope," and then that was the nickname that stuck with Craig. And so I just thought it only appropriate to bestow that title upon you. And what I find hilarious is that it seems to have gotten to you. That's like the only thing that ever have gotten you. Because
the implication, and it's not. Don't act as if it's only this one word or one nickname. There have been infinite incidences at this point. Implications, snide little comments to imply that I am either overtly, intentionally, or unintentionally negative in some way.
At a point in time, that may have been the case. But as far as how I feel right now, I don't care anymore. I don't know if you've beaten me down to where I can't even recognize anymore.
But you see, that's right there. You've beaten me down. The implication of that phrase.
And yet you boast. You seem to boast about that, behind closed doors. So I don't know.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is, then when I bring up the reality, don't try and pretend like, oh, shucks, golly me, I don't know where he's getting this from. Okay, we both know what's going on here, right?
I just think the shocking part is that you could be that sensitive.
I'm not being sensitive. I don't want you running away from, the reality of the situation and the own words that have come out of your mouth. I just want to keep us both honest here.
Sure.
Okay.
I love honesty. Well, anything on Black Widow? They've had a difficult time cutting a trailer for that movie that can bring any real excitement, haven't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually do want to like it because I feel the Black Widow character has been done dirty within the MCU. I really do. Not that she's terrible, but I never think they gave her due enough, or went out of their way to round her out enough as a character, the way they did with her counterparts, especially her male counterparts. And there was a lot of cool stuff within the film. I like the Russian superhero squad.
It's hilarious.
Captain Soviet Union, or whatever the fuck they're gonna call him, probably Captain Russia.
Yeah.
I forgot what the fuck his name was. But also the actor, I forgot his name too.
David Harbour.
David Harbour, yes. But he's awesome, and him playing that character.
It's a great cast.
Yeah.
You have David Harbour, Rachel Weisz, Florence Pugh, and Scarlett Johansson. Pew.
Yeah, no, it looks cool. The white suit, awesome. That's cool. She should have wore that to Endgame. Taskmaster, that is a character that I do know, a villain. And it's cool to see him there. There looks to be some fun action. But yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping it's kind of a Falcon and Winter Soldier thing where it's like...
Me too.
Where it's just like... It looks fine, whatever. But once I'm physically watching it, it's like, okay, this fucking neat, fucking all right, awesome. I'm hoping it's one of those situations. Oh, I also like the the like Russian theme.
Yeah,
Avengers
that was
theme.
funny.
That's fun. Get into the Russia thing more. Yeah. As far as like it still bothers me that it's like, I never had a family. Anyway, here's your family that you apparently all care about each other. And it's like, okay. But I kind of don't care either at this point.
I just want it to be good.
Yeah.
And especially since it's going to be, and I have to imagine at this point, when it's released in July, that may be our return to theaters as well.
I hope so.
We don't want to hold our breath too soon.
Oh, hell no.
We want to hope for that. So there was a clip that was released featuring Paul Rudd in Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now this reaction I found hilarious because, up until that clip, there had seemed to have been this narrative forming around this Ghostbusters movie that this was the one. This was the one that was going to come closest to capturing that magic of that original one,
Mm-hmm.
And because all the other ones seem to have failed so miserably, maybe none more so than the 2016 movie, which it was fine. There was a controversy that blew up around that I found was nonsensical, idiotic, stupid, and above all, sexist. And it's a shame because I think those actors were done dirty in many ways. Like that was a great cast, and Paul Feig really dropped the ball on that, and so did Sony, which they so usually do. And then for whatever reason, I think there was a first teaser of this movie about a year or two ago, and that seemed to really catch people's attention, and it felt, I don't know, a bit more authentic to what made the first one special. And then this thing came out, and everybody lost their goddamn minds. What's your take, Peter?
Yeah, I'm over most nostalgia things. You got to be something real special for me to give a shit about nostalgia at this point. And I don't know, it's this is why I hate nostalgia, because it completely negates the original, or it doesn't. It's just bullshit. The whole reason why there was a big marshmallow guy is it's like a one-off gag. She tells them, think of the worst thing, and then the second you think it'll become reality. And what's his name was thinking about the marshmallow guy, and then he appears. The Stay Puft here, and it's just like, okay, you're bringing it back because it's a thing that people know, but you're like, oh, but it's different because they're like little gremlins eating each other. And it kind of reminded me of that Goosebumps movie that came out, which I actually really enjoyed, but it was a Goosebumps movie. Ghostbusters shouldn't be that, and it just felt tired, and it's just like, why? Plus their CGI, I guess practical is just dead forever, and people don't give a shit to even try. That's why I really liked Krampus, because it's like, oh, sweet, you there was effort here. But I don't know. Like, I can definitely see myself being more forgiving if those were all little puppets, puppet marshmallows, because that would be funny. I don't know, it would be cute, it would be interesting. But seeing like badly CGI'd nostalgia things, and it's like, yeah, this is very 2020 when it was supposed to come out. And I don't know, it feels like it's gonna cater to the fans, which means whatever it can mean. I don't know. At this point, I feel like most people don't know how to do nostalgia right. I really don't think they know. And I guess that's pretty big of me to say, but I think a lot of people would agree with how many swings and misses have come out trying to resurrect old franchises and films. So
yeah, Ghostbusters is yeah, I don't know what else they can say to it. I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see how the movie turns out. It could still be good.
Yeah, I guess I'm just tired of saying that. You know what I mean?
Still, hey, sometimes.
When was the last time?
Rarely. Well, the Marvel shows.
Yeah, but they're not like nostalgia.
Oh no, I mean like in general, when we think something doesn't look all that great, but then it ends up like. When we say
yeah, but that can happen with anything. For me, it's more specifically with these nostalgia things. Like that they hardly ever pan out in any way interesting. Especially when they try to do it with films that are lightning in a bottle. Some stories exist just to be told once, and that's okay.
Let me ask you this. Let me throw in a little bit of small news of this week. Of another franchise. This is a legit franchise that has had several installments, all directed by one of the biggest filmmakers of all time. Made news this week. Peter's most anticipated movie of the year. Not the year, but I think the decade or the century, depending on your vernacular. Indiana Jones 5, directed by James Mangold, added 2 cast members, Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Mads Mikkelsen.
I mean, Mads Mikkelsen is the villain, right? Like, I guess we can all...
I have to think that's what he's doing here, right? I mean, good for Mads Mikkelsen. He's getting some big movie roles now. Like he just replaced Johnny Depp, it seemed like, on the Harry Potter. Although how long that franchise lasts, who the fuck knows?
Even if it's one film, it's probably a hell of a paycheck.
It is. And then here, starring opposite Harrison Ford and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and actually pretty big news for Phoebe as well.
Yeah, I assume she will replace his son Mutt. What's his name?
Shia LaBeouf. Which, even before the recent controversies with him, and I have to say recent because there have always been controversies with Shia LaBeouf, but even the recent round of controversies with him, it doesn't ever seem that he was ever going to be a part of this movie. Even from the days that Spielberg was supposed to direct this movie.
No. But I think, honestly, that probably has more to do with the actor than... I think if they had, like, gotten a better actor, they'd be back. But, you know.
The character was despised, from what I remember, in Crystal Skull.
Shia LaBeouf is no son to Harrison Ford. I don't know. I think that was a really bad choice by Spielberg. And I'm pretty sure the choice was made by Spielberg. But, you know, whatever. I actually don't hate Indy 4.
I think I could think of a worse choice, though, because and notice how we've heard no news on this. Maybe a worse casting choice by him was casting Ansel Elgort for West Side Story.
Oh, yeah.
And we've heard nothing about what's happening with that movie. And you know, it's hilarious because Disney now has like basically 2 movies by some star-studded directors. They have a Kenneth Branagh movie and a Steven Spielberg movie, but they're both heavily led by 2 canceled, or I don't know if, I guess Elgort isn't as canceled as Armie Hammer, but Armie Hammer is the lead of Kenneth Branagh's like next murder mystery movie that was supposed to be already out by now, but Disney held it.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's weird, right? Like Elgort, I don't even know if it's that. What? Why was he canceled?
I think it was
just being weird with girls. I don't know.
Forgive my ignorance on this. It's been some time. Last I recall, it was either an allegation of sexual... I think it was one allegation of sexual assault. And one only. Okay. From what I recall. But then nothing came of it. Everything just went quiet.
Well, because he probably went quiet.
Yeah.
But then weren't they going to do Baby Driver 2?
I mean, Yeah, but I haven't heard anything about that in years. I know Edgar Wright was supposed to do that movie, and last I heard it was in development. The last news West Side Story received is that it was getting a late 2021 release. That was it.
I won't... Like, I'm not trying to say Ansel Elgort is guilty of anything. Like, I don't fucking know, clearly. But he always came off like a douche to me. I don't know.
I can't say I've seen many of his movies. I think I've only seen the Baby Driver movie.
But I feel like a lot of people like him. Or at least before all of this. And he always came off kind of douchey. I don't know.
Are you trying to say you knew?
I'm not saying I knew. I guess him being douchey doesn't mean anything. I don't know. I just threw that out there, I guess. I just always thought it was... Because there's a lot of actors. Right? Well, like, we're watching The Falcon and the Winter Soldier right now, and everyone's going crazy. Sebastian Stan and what's his name?
Anthony
Mackie. But like Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie, they come off for like really cool people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I get that. And Ansel Elgort, I'm not saying he's like, well, I guess now I don't know. But in the past I wouldn't say like, oh, he's an evil person or so. He's clearly a good looking guy. But I don't know, he never came off like oh my god. For like the huge fan base he had, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that sucks. I really hate those situations. I hate that they exist. But I guess, bringing them out into the spotlight is the only way to ensure that they don't continue.
Indiana Jones 5.
Indiana Jones 5.
What do you think?
I don't know. I'm not against it. For me, it would have to be a very different type of film. It would have to almost not even be an Indiana Jones film. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting because this for sure has to be the last one.
Well, yeah,
right.
Unless he signs off on using his CG likeness. Then they can do them forever. Oh God, do you think they'll try and make what's her name his daughter? Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I hope they don't even try and do the kid thing. I don't even know what the angle would be with this film.
They did it to Jeffrey Rush.
Oh, that's right. But I guess it would be sucky here because they already did it once with Shia LaBeouf.
I know, it would seem really derivative at that point.
Yeah. I do like the director they got. What's his name?
Yeah, Mangold's a director.
A really good director. And I like the comments he made where he said, I can't just come in and make another Indiana Jones film. Basically saying he needs to do something different.
I'll just say, just for brief background for those listening who are not aware, James Mangold, some of my favorite movies that he's made, Walk the Line with Joaquin Phoenix, and I believe it's Reese Witherspoon, Logan,
mm-hmm.
and I also liked his, what was his movie he made the year before?
Ford
Matt
v.
Damon.
Ferrari?
Yes, Matt Damon and Christian Bale. Yeah. He has a pretty
the
old
dad
school
movies of dad movies.
Literally, yeah. He has an old school way of making movies that I find appealing. Those are pretty good comments to point out. And I think, look, I don't know. I think this film is in better hands with Mangold than with Spielberg. I don't think
100%.
I don't think Spielberg just has, and I think this is why he left. He just doesn't.
He doesn't care. He doesn't want to make it.
No, he doesn't want to make these movies anymore. Because I don't know if you've been reading some of the latest stories that his next movie, not West Side Story, but the one that he's making, apparently, someone speculated this may be like a career capper, because it's supposed to be an autobiographical movie on his childhood growing up in Phoenix. and I think certain names have been thrown around, like Seth Rogen and Paul Dano, already in the movie. So, are you okay? You still dying?
Yeah, sorry, my back. I had to move the mic. I was twisted up. No, I've been seeing that. It's interesting. I thought that was neat. Autobiographical film by Spielberg. Yeah, and you can probably tell maybe he's thinking about his filmography, his legacy, all that stuff.
I think he's approaching his mid-70s, if I'm not mistaken. So
hell, he could be heading for retirement. Although I don't know, he seems to still enjoy it because he still keeps making them
movies,
and at a record pace. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's just keeps going and going attached to these films, but he just doesn't like to make the films that he used to make. I know everyone loves his 80s stuff in the 80s, early 90s. I just don't think he's not that filmmaker anymore. He's just
because he's a different person now. That's kind of what happens with aging. And I think that
but the nostalgia requires that nothing change.
I know. Well, I mean, speaking of nostalgia, and this won't be the first time we mentioned Ready Player One, because we still have to talk about that Space Jam.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But like, I think there was some quotes that were taken from Spielberg when he was doing the promotional tour for Ready Player One, and I was like, he basically admitted he didn't make this movie for himself. He did it because that's what people had been asking him for years.
Yeah, that's another film I don't think he wanted to make.
No, well, it shows. It wasn't very good.
It was, yeah.
And it shows because, like, the movie wasn't even wrapped on production, and he went to go film another movie. I mean, he couldn't get out of there fast enough.
Yeah. Like, I'm not in love with a lot of Spielberg's most recent films, but you can still tell which ones he gives a shit about and which ones he doesn't. Ready Player One, he didn't give a shit about. That really is a film you can tell. They're like, well, Spielberg has to direct it. I
tried
film.
getting through the BFG. I couldn't get through half an hour of it.
Yeah,
I really couldn't get through it.
I don't know. It's with those big films, it really does feel like
the magic's gone, man.
It's all autopilot. Like, he's such...
Like Crystal Skull, look, that one...
I enjoy it.
Yeah, that one still
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, surviving a fucking nuclear blast by being in a... It's
funny, though.
It's literally magic, right? Like, it's magic. Yeah. He should have been atoms, like, nothing left. But I can look past that. Because there is still a lot of fun stuff. He wasn't completely gone as far as these films go.
Not at that point.
No. But yeah, I knew for this last Indiana Jones film, like, he probably just put it off because he just didn't want to do it. And then eventually they were probably like, you gotta make this fucking film. And he's like, just give it to someone else. But Mangold is an interesting story because he is a good director. You know, he's got a lot of... You could say he's at the height of his career. But he's also a bit old-fashioned, like you said.
Yeah.
But also he wants to not just make another Indiana Jones film, probably do his own thing with it, which...
shows promise.
Yeah. All of that to me shows promise. But, you know, of course, at the end of the day, if you had asked me, should there be another Indiana Jones film? No. Just let things be. Just let stories be told. Like, just make new stories. God damn it! Make new characters. Make the new Indiana Jones. What was the last original blockbuster?
Avatar?
You know who's the only one that can still get away with it? Is Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, well, he's built up a reputation.
Mm-hmm. I think that he's the last one that can make original blockbusters.
There are people that risk their lives in the middle of a pandemic to go see his latest movie.
He's got loyal followers. Although I think Zack Snyder has finally beat him in the weird, loyal follower film thing, record or whatever.
Yeah. But the thing with the Spielberg thing, that movie about his childhood, that I'm really curious to see, because it's those films that you can tell he has a clear passion for. And I mean, I know you didn't seem to care much for Tintin. I really enjoyed that movie.
I've only seen Tintin once. And I don't hate it, but it feels so overly produced.
Does it?
If that makes sense.
I really enjoyed that movie.
It's enjoyable, right? Like it's basically an animated Indiana Jones film.
Yeah.
That's literally what it is. Mm-hmm. I've literally only seen it once. Maybe if I rewatched it, because my mind does change. And
we all do.
Yeah, of course.
When it comes to certain movies, yeah.
But it's been a long while since I've seen it. Maybe if I were to rewatch it, I would feel very differently. But it feels like an Indiana. At the time, it did feel like an Indiana Jones film, but like so made by a machine. I don't know.
I do believe Peter Jackson was heavily involved in the movie.
Well, they both love Tintin, and there was supposed to be like a trilogy where Peter Jackson would have directed the second one, and then they would have like co-directed on the third or something like that. Like they were really big on Tintin. But I guess like most things these big directors touch, it doesn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, but I really like that movie.
I should rewatch it. I don't know.
But I really loved Warhorse. Now people call it schmaltzy and overly sentimental, but I love that film.
I did like that one as well. It is.
That was
very
the last year.
schmaltzy.
It is. That was the last year. I think he released 2 movies at the same. No. The last year was 2015, I think, with BFG, which but there was Bridge of Spies, which was good. And then there was Lincoln and The Post. Right? And then there was...
Lincoln and The Post. Those weren't the same year.
No, I meant like in the last decade.
Oh,
the films that he's made.
Ready Player One.
So yeah, Ready. You can tell the distinction between movies that he cares and not cares about. So I just hope that he sticks with making movies that he actually wants to make now.
Yeah.
And this project that he's making sounds pretty exciting to me.
It seems like he could only make that if he gave a shit. That's real personal shit.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay. So I guess we'll wait and see with Indiana Jones 5. Shows some promise, but ultimately it still has to work overtime to show that it's worth actually making the film. Last trailer we'll discuss here. So, and this one was, I didn't know really what to expect. I mean, I knew to expect Looney Tunes and LeBron James, but Warner Media is working overtime to really copycat Disney as much as possible. But here it is. They unveiled their trailer for Space Jam: A New Legacy. Is that what it's called? The new,
just say Space Jam 2.
Yeah, Space Jam 2. What the fuck did you think of this thing? It looked like Ready Player One 2, if you ask me.
Yeah, it felt more like Ready Player 1 2 than Space Jam 2. Which okay. I didn't like it at all. And it's not even that they went Ready Player 2 with it. It's that
it's like a mix of Ready Player One, the trailers from Ready Player One, and the trailers from Ralph Breaks the Internet.
I don't hate it because the entire point of the original Looney Tunes, the whole reason it was Michael Jordan meets the Looney Tunes was because like that, the original Space Jam is like a marketer's wet dream, right? Michael Jordan, the only reason Michael Jordan's in the movie is because he was the biggest, hottest thing at the time. And the Looney Tunes were like at that height, like in the 90s. The 90s was real big on Looney Tunes. So they took these two things that were both making a lot of money and put them together, and they're like, well, that'll make us double the money. And apparently they were right. So the idea that being a cynical cash cow is very much within the DNA of the Looney Tunes. Not the Looney Tunes, Space Jam. So I don't necessarily hate that idea. What I hate the most is what's fun, or at least what I enjoyed about it, was the live action / 2D animation combo.
But you knew that wasn't going to happen in 2021.
I didn't know
right?
that, though. I know.
You just
I
had
pushed
to
back.
know.
I did not know that. I wanted to see LeBron James there interacting with all the 2D Looney Tunes. But I guess we're not even going to get that at all because he turns into a cartoon when he's with them, which is fucking lame.
Wait, remind me real quick. Was the recent Tom and Jerry 2D or 3D?
See, that's the thing. It was technically like CG 3D, but it was done to look exactly like 2D. It was actually a pretty good effect. Yeah. It looked like 2D. And I would have been fine if they did that here, but of course they had to go with like the realistic fur, and yeah, it doesn't, I'll be honest, it doesn't look good. It looks ugly. It's not fun.
I think it looks about as good as it could.
Yeah, but that I don't doesn't say much.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's especially jarring. I think it's made so much worse because when I was watching the trailer, what I was blown away with was how beautiful the 2D animation was in the Toon world with those Looney Tunes, and it was like, wow, and it felt like this is classic animated Looney Tunes there. And well, that didn't last very long.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and it's like, to me, that takes away all the fun that there is within the film. Because I like the original Space Jam. But because it's a fun Looney Tunes.
It's a cult classic, isn't it?
Oh, fuck yeah. But it's a fun Looney Tunes film, mixed in with the live action. It's a lot of fun, and it's funny, and I like it. But with this, they're going the ugly CG route, and it kind of zaps the funniness away. And it's just this ugly barrage of CG IPs. Like the new, I don't know, what are they called? The Goon Squad? I
guess, yeah.
They look terrible. Like CG wise, looks like some 90s creation CG wise. Really, really bad. Whereas the Monstars from the original, they had personality. They were and good animation. And here, I don't know what you're getting out of it if you're not even getting good Looney Tunes animation stuff. I don't know. Of course, I will watch it. It's gonna be there anyways on HBO Max. Might as well. But no, it also doesn't help that I recently rewatched Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Oh, yeah.
And that film is really good.
I really like that movie.
And that film also goes into the shameless plugging all their IPs shit as well.
They do.
But it's done a lot more cleverly and in a way that's a lot more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think at one point the animated versions of Shaggy and Scooby are there yelling at Matthew Lillard because Shaggy didn't like the way he portrayed him in the film.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Like, that's fun. That's funny. And you're crossing your different properties. I guess to me that was such a better example of what they're trying to do with
it wasn't so much in your face as it is today.
And even if it was in your face, it was done in a cheeky, fun way. Like with what's his name being the main star, and also that Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
If your film has Brendan Fraser, I think you automatically get 5 stars. But they utilized him in a fun way where he was trying to be an actor, but he even says like, "Oh, he was the stunt double for Brendan Fraser." And he's like, "I was the one doing all that shit in those Mummy movies." And it's like it's cross promotion with all your IPs that you have, but it's not lame.
Yeah.
Where with Space Jam 2, it just shoves it in your face. Like, look at all the things we own, to the point where it just made me feel weird.
Didn't it? Like, it felt like a commercial for HBO Max.
Yeah. But and a lot of people have pointed this out. They had the murder rapists from A Clockwork Orange on the sidelines, like cheering Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange, like cheering on the Looney Tunes. These guys were rapists. Like, there's an explicit rape scene in that film. Or at the very least, rape does happen in that film. And they're just there on the sidelines going like, yeah, it's weird.
All the while they made a big fuss of
Pepe Le Pew, yeah.
Yeah. Because Pepe Le Pew isn't in the movie.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where, I guess to quote Jurassic Park, you're so preoccupied of whether, however that quote goes, you're preoccupied with whether you could do it and not with whether you should do it. It's where you see it and it's just like a monstrosity. Like,
it is.
These Stanley Kubrick rapist characters are there cheering on Bugs Bunny, ugly live action CG Bugs Bunny, as he's, doing a 3-pointer, and the War Boys from Mad Max are on the other side, cheering them on too. It's just weird. I don't know.
Next to the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Scooby-Doo and the gang.
See, those at least, it's like, okay, right? Like, I can accept those.
Right.
Because you could say, oh, they're all part of the Warner Brothers owned cartoon worlds.
Sure. Tunes work better, but it's not just the tunes. It's the tunes mixed in with all of these really borderline inappropriate people.
Because the next step would be like, okay, kids films, right?
Uh-huh.
So like, okay, maybe you have the Iron Giant, which all of a sudden they love showing off the Iron Giant.
Yeah.
And because, Iron Giant was a cartoon. It was a cartoon movie. But let's say you mix it in with these other cartoon live action films, right? It's like, okay, it's a kid's film. Yeah, that's fine. But then they're including rated R films like Mad Max. And it's like, well, it's a blockbuster, whatever. but then they're including like these black and white characters from films that kids would never understand, right? Like these old classics from like their what is it? Their CMT section, I guess, or
TCM, Turner Classic Movies.
Yeah, their TCM section. And then of course just a weird like the Clockwork Orange thing where you just end up with these really the implications. You just start to think about it, and it's like this is freaking me out. I don't know. This is too much for me.
Real quick, what did you make of just where Pepe Le Pew is right now as a character of the Looney Tunes?
I mean, his character was that of a sexual assaulter, to say the least. His whole
predator. His
whole thing was just forcing himself on women, and then everyone laughing.
Can you believe that? I mean, I remember as a kid thinking that was funny and weird, but now that it's been like several years, well over a decade, just thinking of Pepe Le Pew and like oh, okay. Wow, we thought that was funny, huh? It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking at here. They had characters from Game of Thrones. They had with the Wizard of Oz, Batman, and the animated. Yeah,
like having all the Batmans or the DC characters and the Wizard of Oz. That I can wrap my head around, right? Because it's like it's kids' film, right? We bring out all our kids' properties.
Thundercats was in there.
Yeah,
Yogi
like
Bear.
That's fun. That's nice. But then they just they went too far. They had to include everything.
Screen Rant was saying here, seriously, the gang of rapists and criminals from Clockwork Orange is attending the game in Space Jam. Sorry, Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it was a strange spectacle. I really don't know what to feel about this, other than this conversation we just had really didn't make me feel any better about what to expect out of this. It actually made me feel worse. So, yeah, expectations are kind of on the floor right now. And it was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks. But like I said earlier, it doesn't seem like people are that good at this nostalgia thing. The one part that made me laugh was the part that I wanted to see, which is Looney Tunes stuff. When Daffy, tossed the ball and he's like, shoot. And then he just fired a bunch of bullets. I was like, very loony.
What about the Lola Bunny of it all? I didn't see much of a difference.
I am disgusted.
I didn't see the first Space Jam, so I don't know.
I speak for many.
Oh my god.
Many individuals who have been waiting over 2 decades to get our hot Lola Bunny back. And then the SJWs and the feminists, they have ruined America to the point where we can't even have our hot looking bunnies. We must storm the Capitol. And
they did already.
Oh shit. They did already? Did they succeed?
Yeah. No, it was a failed insurrection. It happened on January 6th.
Oh well. I mean, I don't care. I obviously I don't care. In fact, I do think more often than not, I will say, most people throwing a ruckus about the Lola Bunny thing were doing it as a joke. I just think they thought it was funny, like this idea to be angry about, where's my hot bunny, goddammit? I was promised sexy bunnies. And most people I saw throwing a fit over it or doing it ironically. But I mean, she looks like Lola Bunny. My favorite iteration of Lola Bunny is from the cartoon from the 2000s. The Looney Tunes show. Did you ever watch it? It's Cartoon Network.
I watched like 1 or 2 episodes, but I never really caught on with it. I heard it was good.
It's funny, right? Like, it's different.
Yeah.
It's not your typical Looney Tunes, but the humor was there. It was funny. And that Lola Bunny was voiced by Kristen Wiig.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love Kristen Wiig.
And this one is going to be voiced by Zendaya. I guess Zendaya, is the new, what's her name? From Guardians of the Galaxy.
Zoe
Saldana, yeah. She's the new Zoe Saldana. You just throw her in everything. But yeah, it's a non-controversy. I think people were just having a laugh.
I thought there were some people who were being serious.
Well, yeah, okay. The people that were being serious are the same idiots, like the usual suspects. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it never went past them. Not seriously, I don't think. You know what I mean?
All right, if you say so. Are we done with this? So we can move on to Godzilla?
Yeah.
And let's see how it did. So Godzilla versus Kong has dominated the box office and also HBO Max at the same time. So Godzilla vs. Kong is the biggest opening of the pandemic era with a first 5-day total, domestically anyway, of $48.5 million and grossed $285 million in its first 2 weeks. That's almost $300 million in 2 weeks. That is mighty impressive in the pandemic era. You know, for comparison's sake, look at the domestic openings. You'd be lucky if you're anywhere between $12 to $15 million on an opening weekend in the pandemic era for films that are being released in theaters. And what Godzilla was able to do in the first 3 days, I believe, was $32 million. And then they put in the first 5 days for because it did open on Wednesday, I believe, of the week that it opened, 48.5. Pretty impressive. And it hasn't stopped there. So far, and these were updated numbers, the movie has grossed $72 million domestic and $268 million international. And then there were 2 figures, and I'm not sure which is the updated one, but the recent numbers from Box Office Mojo read that Godzilla vs. Kong had grossed $341 million worldwide. Another number that I saw had already pegged it over a little over $360 million worldwide. The point is, in 3 weeks, it has basically matched the overall gross of Christopher Nolan's Tenet, which was another film. The film
that saved cinema.
Right, the film that tried to save cinema in the pandemic era. First, before we move on to the HBO Max side of it, just real quick. So the success of Godzilla vs. Kong has lifted the stocks of movie theaters. I saw here that AMC's stock rose like 13%, Cinemark's stock rose 7%, and Regal's stock rose 5%. It seemingly did wake up the box office in a way that we hadn't seen it since before the pandemic. And I also have to remind people, in case, and I'm not sure if we had mentioned this, Peter, in our review of the movie, but Godzilla vs. Kong did earn an A cinema score, which cinema score is seemingly the poster boy for, getting people's general audiences reviews or reactions to a movie as they're walking out, wherever they can do that now with this pandemic era. But there is that.
But
what do you think of? Yes.
Does that even mean anything, since that's the same score that The Last Jedi got, and that's the worst film ever made?
You're right. Maybe I should reevaluate cinema scores and standards. Of course, being sarcastic there for anyone not aware. Mr. Martinez, your response to the amazing box office performance of Godzilla vs. Kong.
I think it's fantastic. I also think it kind of makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. For the first time, a good little percentage of the country is vaccinated. This is a huge film. The kind of film that demands to be seen on the big screen. Like, if you're gonna see it, that's definitely the way you would like to see it. A lot of people know about Godzilla, a lot of people know about Kong. The idea of them punching each other is a big spectacle novelty that a lot of people would like to see. So the idea that this was the film released at this time that kind of pushed people out of the doors to finally hit the movie theaters is not a surprise to me. I'm really glad that it is this film. Hashtag continue the Monsterverse. I'm very happy with those numbers. I'm glad that it's doing well. And I hope it means some more monster movies. And I hope people go see them.
Yeah, I think this is the best possible result that this movie ever could have hoped for. I was very trepidatious about what this could do in a normal season with a jam-packed movie season. But when it had, the audience all to itself, it overperformed. It's already made over its budget back. So, which for a movie to do that in a pandemic era, that hasn't happened yet that I'm aware of. So, unless maybe Tenet, but I'm not too sure about what the overall numbers were there. But pretty impressive for that. And, it also has like this extra glow to it, This is basically what Tenet wanted to be. It is looked at in many ways now as like the movie responsible for roaring the box office back to life. We'll see. But it was a spectacle. And I think this also means good things. I think that because of how the film is being perceived amongst the trades, I think there may very well be a continuation of this Monsterverse. Whereas before, I may not have been so sure. But then again, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe in a normal season, maybe this one might have been the one that actually have like gotten everyone to go out and see it.
You never know, because in normal, this could have been pushed between like 4 other blockbusters.
That's the thing. So like the last Godzilla film, King of the Monsters, no one saw that movie.
No one.
So it was nice to see Godzilla have the limelight to itself a little bit. But it also had a great performance on HBO Max from what Samba TV reports. They were third-party analytics. They're saying that 3.6 million households watched. The report reads, while HBO Max didn't provide any official viewership figures on Godzilla vs. Kong, previous data from Samba shows that the fourth goal's audience was larger than HBO Max movies, than previous HBO Max movies for the first 4 days, including Wonder Woman 1984 and the Snyder Cut. And that was kind of the interesting thing. Like, Godzilla vs. Kong wasn't just, doing well at the box office. It was doing well on HBO Max at the same time. And, usually, like, I think the thought going around was that when you would put a movie on a streaming service the same day as it's released in theaters, it would come at the direct expense out of the theatrical release, and that didn't happen, it seemed like, in this instance.
The That is interesting, and that's actually happened quite a bit with HBO Max. The numbers for the Tom and Jerry animated film weren't too shabby in theaters.
Yeah,
and
better than Raya's.
Yeah, and that came out same day HBO Max. So for whatever reason, HBO Max is actually faring quite well, I think, comparatively to Disney. And even with its, same day release on HBO Max, as in theaters.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens next with other big movies that are going to come out, and if it gets a similar response, or if it has a far more reserved one. Black Widow, for instance. According to a new report from Observer, Black Widow is expected to triple its domestic box office gross to about $170 million because Disney decided to push the film further into the summer months. Before the delay, which saw the film coming out in May this year, the domestic projection was just $45 million. The $170 million prediction seems pretty incredible, especially considering that Disney Plus subscribers will also have the option to pay an extra $29.99 to watch the movie at home through the streamer's Premier Access program. With the global box office also picking up, particularly in China, the $200 million film has various avenues to make a profit, despite capacity limitations from most movie theaters. This comes from Joe Blow. So this seemingly is one particular projection that Godzilla vs. Kong's success has affected. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Do you think they're rethinking a little bit whether or not they want to have Black Widow go on Disney Plus as well?
I don't think it should. I think they have been failures so far, but I mean, $30 is a lot, and it all goes directly in Disney's pocket. So they could say fuck it, even though it hasn't done that well. The little well that it has done on Disney Plus, those premium access purchases, that's money directly to us. That's something. So they'll probably keep it as is. But I hate the premium access shit. And like I said, I think this film could hit $1 billion. Will it? I don't know. I don't know how it'll be by the time it comes out.
I think in normal circumstances it was a guarantee.
Yeah.
But in the pandemic era, it makes it a lot more difficult to actually see. Another film that Godzilla vs. Kong's success has affected is Dune. Warner Brothers is reportedly reconsidering its simultaneous theatrical and streaming release plan for the star-studded sci-fi epic Dune. According to a new report from Deadline, the report suggests that Warner Brothers remains undecided about Dune's release approach, citing the monstrous theatrical success of Legendary Entertainment's Godzilla vs. Kong as a contributing factor. We should also note that Legendary Entertainment is also responsible for heavily financing Dune, which has still to the point has not really been confirmed what's going to happen with this. Peter, do you think that this gives some much needed hope that Dune may in fact be a theater-only experience?
Yeah, I think Legendary really wants it to be a theater-only experience.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they really want this to be a big Star Wars level hit franchise for them. And obviously they don't want it going straight to the consumer. They want it to be something big, something special. They want it to be something they can create from it. I don't know. I don't know what'll happen. Again, it all depends on the pandemic. By then, though, most people should probably be going to the movie theater if Black Widow is the film that really pushes people out to see it. You know what I mean? If people came out like in big numbers to see Black Widow, then I think that'll be the thing that kind of like pushes the floodgates open. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel a lot more bullish on the idea that Dune might be an exclusive theatrical experience than I did beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
You get the impression that Legendary is insisting on this. More news out of Warner Brothers. They reached a deal with Cineworld, which owns Cinemark. Cineworld and Warner Brothers have reached a multi-year agreement that will see the #2 global exhibitor show the studio's 2021 theatrical and HBO Max day and date titles in the US as of their theatrical release. Then, beginning in 2022, Warner Brothers theatrical films will have a 45-day window of theatrical exclusivity at Cineworld's Regal chain. Let me explain what this means because it's not all that clear, and I think you expressed some confusion yourself, Peter, when this story first broke. This doesn't mean that Cineworld is going to get Warner Brother films exclusively at their theater chains for 45 days. I think this is kind of a cleanup on Warner Brothers' part because they previously were not okay with this announcement. Among the many parties that were not okay with their announcement that their entire 2021 lineup would be released simultaneously in theaters and HBO Max, and Cineworld had put up more of a fight with that. So they reached an agreement where they kind of like, okay, for this year, we will agree to have your movies in our theaters on the same day that you drop them on HBO Max. But in the next year, 2022, we are owed a 45-day window where you can only show these films in theaters before you put them on HBO Max. Mm-hmm. And this isn't just with Cineworld. I think the expectation will be that this is how Warner Brothers is going to handle it across the board in 2022. That theatrical first for 45 days, then HBO Max. What do you think of this decision? Because I think many had suspected beforehand that this, that 2021 HBO day and date, although I didn't suspect this, but some people were thinking that this would be the new way of things going forward from now on.
No, I don't think so. But I mean, you still have a shortened release date, don't you?
It is a shortened window. It went from like 60 some days to 40 some days. So.
Yeah, I think that is the new normal, a much shorter window that it's in theaters, which I mean, that is a knock to movie theaters, right?
It is.
It's less exclusive. If people feel they can see the film sooner, and like, let's say they're like, well, I want to see this film, but I don't know if I care to rush out. Before, when it's like you'd have to wait forever to finally be able to see it on a streaming service or on digital or rented or anything like that, you would maybe go like, I'll go to the movie theaters, I'll pay the ticket and I'll go watch it. But now you might go, I'll wait. It'll be there in a month and a half or so. I'll wait. So even though I agree, I never believed that, oh yeah, all movies going forward are just going to be released directly to. No. Because there's a reason why big, massive blockbusters have not been made exclusively for streaming services yet. Yeah. There's a big reason for that. Because believe me, if they made more money on streaming services, they'd all be coming out on there. But they just don't. They make much more money in the movie theater. But it is a knock to movie theaters at the end of the day. And I do think it will result in them receiving less revenue. And I do think that is, if anything is permanent, it is the shorter window period. Mm-hmm. Or if anything becomes permanent.
Corona did it all by itself. Zack Snyder's Justice League viewership numbers apparently are in. Variety has published data insights from TV Vision, which measures around 25,000 titles across the U.S. amongst a panel of roughly 5,000 households and 14,000 individuals of viewership data. Now, this is what they say. According to their research, Zack Snyder's Justice League drew a smaller streaming share then Wonder Woman 1984, Godzilla vs. Kong, and Judas and the Black Messiah.
Oof. That's bad.
Judas and the Black Messiah, which is a great film. We reviewed it here on the channel. But there's no way that should draw a bigger audience than a Justice League movie?
Yeah, and man, were those Snyderverse people cocky when that film first came out. I think they thought like the whole world has watched it and they all love it. And again, it's not to rain on anyone's parade, but you gotta keep things in perspective. A director's cut of a film that only earned what, 90 million opening weekend, is a 4-hour director's cut of that film is a niche market. Whether you like it or not, that's just the reality. This kind of proves it, or at least shows it through the data. I'm not surprised, but I do feel somewhat for the people. I did expect it to do a little bit better, because with these numbers, I don't know if I can see even a continuation on HBO Max of the Snyderverse, which I think that was a big hope for a lot of the fans. So yeah, it's not completely unexpected, but it's still, I guess, disappointing.
I think it's even more cold water being thrown onto Snyder fans, that's for sure. You know, and I think there's a lot to point out that maybe these numbers are true, because the HBO Max, I think the week after it debuted, they had like a week full of headlines that was DC related, and everybody felt like it was very much in service to bury this Snyderverse. They did not come out with a big headline speaking about how it did in the service. However, just about a week later, Godzilla vs. Kong, and they did a whole press release gloating about how well it did there. So you can kind of read between the lines there, I think.
Yeah. It also doesn't help that the studios themselves want to move on from the Snyderverse, so the numbers would have to look unbelievably extraordinary for them to go like reluctantly go like, okay, let's go back into the Snyderverse. So yeah, even typical good numbers I don't think would have done much. With these numbers, yeah, not great.
Nope, it really isn't. Netflix and Sony, they have come to a new agreement. They're $1 billion streaming deal, it seems like. Starting in the next with next year's slate, this is Sony's movie slate. All movies from the various film banners of the Culver City lot, including Columbia Pictures, Sony Pictures Classics, Screen Gems, and TriStar Pictures, will stream exclusively on Netflix after the theatrical and home entertainment releases. That promises to bring to Netflix future installments of the Spider-Man, Venom, and Jumanji franchises, among others. Deadline is reporting Netflix is spending around $1 billion for acquiring the streaming rights of Sony's catalog. A lot of things with this. First and foremost, Sony has gracefully bowed out of the streaming wars.
Yeah.
They're like, thanks, but no thanks.
That's
I think we'll make more money. Yeah. We'll make more money in a different way. And they seemingly are like, if this were like a presidential like primary, this would be the equivalent of like Pete Buttigieg endorsing Joe Biden. This is pretty much what it is. It's like Sony is like, hey, Netflix, we'll get behind you. You're going to pay us first, but we'll get behind you and make sure that you're around with this. I think this shows the seriousness that Netflix is at to stay in the game. But I love this because it just ensures the longevity of it. This deal that Sony has made with Netflix is pretty much what Disney had before they pulled out and made Disney Plus, which is their new movies and a lot of their catalog are just going to be on there now. I believe it was a 3 or so year deal, and the another twist of irony here, Netflix is going to have some Marvel movies on there, the Spider-Man films. I also have to imagine that extends to the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. So
that's interesting. Another way
Isn't
that those
it?
films are going to be disjointed.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on this? Netflix is spending a lot of money.
Yeah. I think they're very serious about staying competitive. And they do understand that they have some hefty competition. But to me, the most interesting thing is Sony going like, all right, I'm out. Because it doesn't seem like a lot of other studios, entities have done that. It feels like a lot of them still just want to go like, no, this is my, they want in on the cash cows. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is a very big and clear signal by Sony going, thanks, but no thanks. So I think that's interesting.
For us. I mean, let's be real. I mean, they've been struggling for years to get franchises of their own, even to be successful in the box office. I don't think a streaming service, realistically speaking, was ever.
Yeah,
I know. It was never in the cards. I also don't understand, just for the sake of their goddamn synergy, you really telling me Disney couldn't have paid the $1 billion to get the streaming rights to all of their pictures? Of course, I mean, I'm happy it ended up being this way because I don't really need Disney to have everything. I mean, they have enough, more than they'll ever need.
Yeah.
And this is the big get for Netflix. And just to quickly recap, Disney has Disney Plus, Warner's has HBO Max, Universal has Peacock, and Paramount has Paramount Plus, which I'm really curious to see how the hell that's going to do. Paramount Plus announced some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, some of it was pretty cool, but like, I wonder if in a couple of years that's going to survive.
I feel like 90 Day Fiancé is keeping them alive. Oh, I don't think not Paramount Plus, Discovery Plus.
Oh, Discovery Plus? Yeah. Well, here's some more good news in terms of how much Netflix is just burning cash. So we had talked about Rian Johnson's deal with Knives Out. His films that he wrote, Knives Out 2 and Knives Out 3, are going to be released through Netflix. Netflix is paying for them. Well, here it is. It was initially said that the deal was in the $400 to $450 million range. But the final number came out to $469 million, which is a little crazy. The Hollywood Reporter's sources have claimed that Rian Johnson, Daniel Craig, and producer Ram Bergman are looking to walk away with upwards of $100 million each. It gives Rian Johnson complete creative control and means he won't have to take any notes from Netflix, but it does say that Daniel Craig must star in the sequels and that they must have at least the budget of the original film, which the original film cost somewhere in the realm of $40 million. $469 million, Peter, and $300 million of that 469 is just to pay the salaries of Rian Johnson, Ram Bergman, and Daniel Craig.
That's insane. I guess they'll just cut that last $100 million down the middle, and the sequels will be $50 million each.
Right?
Ron Bergman, damn, he really got his cash cow, huh?
God damn.
I know you don't have the number, but is that more than Craig has made on Bond?
I think it has. I think it is.
God damn. I really like Rian Johnson. I like to see him succeed, especially with a lot of the pretty bad negative stuff that was thrown his way after his Star Wars film. But I think he's a fantastic filmmaker. I adored the first Knives Out. Whatever.
That's how we're gonna call it now. The first Knives Out.
Well, I don't know. Is the sequel gonna be called Knives Out? Is that the name of the series? I don't even know. Knives In. A lot of people have come up with creative sequel names, but yeah, no. This makes me happy. I like that he specifically is being so successful because, yeah, a lot of people said a lot of terrible things about him, especially his work as like a director and a writer, and I don't agree with him. I obviously think he's incredibly talented, so I'm glad that it's not proving anyone wrong, because at the end of the day it's all opinions. But, you know, it feels good. This is my Snyder Cut being announced, you know. So for all those people that were like #release the Snyder Cut, and then when they announced it, you're like, yes, you know, vindication. This is that for me. Like, oh, this is nice. It's nice for him. Plus, I love Knives Out, and I would love to see anything else he makes. So it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned.
And I think the winning is only made a lot more delicious when you think about the fact that the first Knives Out movie wouldn't have happened if not for these very two important events. If it wasn't for James Bond 25 collapsing and losing a director, Daniel Craig would not have been available to film Knives Out, first and foremost.
Yeah, thank you, James Bond, for collapsing.
I thank you as well. And then the other thing, we have to keep in mind that a lot of the vicious trolling that Rian Johnson received from The Last Jedi was used for inspiration by Rian Johnson to write Knives Out. So we would be remiss if we didn't take this chance to thank the team behind James Bond 25 and the trolls of The Last Jedi for their part.
Are you literally saying, you know, thank you to all the haters?
I mean, I would. Hell, look at this. Look at this money that's being thrown around. I mean, they're kind of responsible for this, and I should hope that they're happy. They're not, but they really... It's just... I mean, I agree with you, Peter. Like, for those assholes that were saying that Rian Johnson's the worst filmmaker ever made, man, could not have aged worse.
Yeah. That was the thing, right? It wasn't just like, well, I don't like this movie. A lot of people were like, he's a hack, he's a crap director. Like, they were saying like he has no talent. Like, they're just like nothing. He's terrible, he's awful. And I'm like, he's really not. Like, he's made some amazing stuff in his short career, both on TV and film. And it feels really short-sighted to just, you know, wipe that away because you didn't like just one film he made, which was a Star Wars film. And then, of course, those people, that whole sentiment really birthed the crazy idiots that are really big, not only within the Star Wars community, but I guess, I don't know, the film community now. It's literally a whole fan base based on hate, and I don't like that.
Do you remember that tweet I sent you a couple months back? It was this British YouTube movie reviewer, and he had shared a comment he had got on one of his videos. He was reviewing, I think, The Rise of Skywalker, and one of the comments went after him for having a poster of Knives Out in the background.
Oh, yeah.
Saying that I'm not watching until you remove this poster. And then the YouTuber was like, this has to be one of the saddest comments I've ever read.
Yeah.
Over a poster.
People are fucking weird on the internet.
All right, let's go ahead.
Sorry,
and
guys. That was a lot of moving.
I know. Wrap it up with our one last story, and unfortunately, this is not the happiest of things, but here it goes. ArcLight cinemas and Pacific theaters to close. In a blow for Southern California moviegoers, and those in Los Angeles in particular, the ArcLight cinemas and Pacific theaters are closing all of their 16 locations for good after seeing their business decimated by the pandemic. This was not the outcome anyone wanted, but despite a huge effort that exhausted all potential options, the company does not have a viable way forward, said a statement issued by Pacific Theaters. The two brands operated more than 300 screens in California, including the coveted Cinerama Dome in Hollywood. For those not aware of the Cinerama Dome, if you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like Quentin Tarantino, there was literally an entire shot of it toward the end of the film. It is one of the more recognizable. I believe it is considered a landmark, if I'm not mistaken. At least it should be.
Not anymore.
Or if not anymore, it seems like. Ryan Johnson tweeted, "Well, this sucks. Every single person who worked at the ArcLight loved movies, and you felt it. Sending love to every usher, manager, and projectionist who rocked that blue shirt and made it such a special place." Peter, what do you say to this?
I mean, I'll just add it to the list of the things I would have loved to have experienced and now never will.
Oh my God. How long is that list?
Very, very long. But I can't. I can't go down that road. Yeah, this is sad. This is very, very sad. Come on, you rich director hacks. Pull your money together and, I don't know, buy it, give it, donate. I don't know, have a car wash. I don't know what you would need to keep it up and running. But
yeah, I have to think something has to happen for at least the Cinerama Dome is concerned. That has to find a way to stay open, I imagine.
I don't know.
Not under this business any longer because they're going out of business. But I mean, like, there has to be something that if they care that much about it, to do something about it. I think Edgar Wright tweeted something like, "Okay, what can I do?" Or to that effect.
Yeah.
When this
you
news
can
broke.
visit it when it's a Starbucks. I don't know what to tell you. When it's repurposed to a Walmart supercenter.
That's pretty sad. Have you ever been in an ArcLight movie theater? There was one that I frequented when I lived in San Diego that was close to my campus, and it was a really nice theater. It was, you take an escalator ride, so that's something special to get up to it. You walk in there, and the lobby's like unlike anything any other movie theater has. When you walk in, you have all of the show times in front of you. You have, of course, the ticket stands. On the left-hand side, there's this wonderful curated gift shop of movie memorabilia, more or less the movies that were out at the time, so it was new stuff. And then to your right, you had a full bar.
Really?
Just a full bar. Yeah. You had a full bar. I mean, I'm not just like a small wet bar, like a full on set. And then as you walk, toward the concession stand, on the left-hand side, and I believe I do have pictures of this somewhere, there is this giant wall monitor, like this wall of monitors, and they're just projecting all of these different posters. And sometimes for special events, it would be one massive poster.
Really?
That they would be showcasing. Yeah, it was real nice, and the popcorn was real good too. And then it was the place where they felt like they were curating to, you know, this is gonna sound really pretentious here, but like, the movie fan in us all. So
you have never once sounded pretentious, Mr. Alexis. Never once.
Thank you so much. Right? Yeah.
No one ever thinks pretentious when they think of you. No.
I would hope not. But you walk into the screening room, and before even the trailers start, you have the usher in there. They introduce themselves. They make you feel at welcome. They even, like, this is unlike what we're so used to down here. Like, they talk to you. They say if there's any concerns or if there are any issues with people not behaving, come and let us know. We'll take care of it. I know there was one screening I went to for Doctor Strange. I went with my roommates, and they were having like trivia questions, and they were giving out like prizes and everything right before the movie happened. Just cool stuff like that. And also what separated this from other chains, they only showed 3 trailers.
Really?
That's it. Yeah, yep, 3 trailers, and then your movie starts. None of this like 25 minutes of trailers before the movie happens.
We get literally half an hour of trailers.
I mean, do you count the Maria Menounos?
Clearly, it was another magical, beautiful place that I will never get to know.
Man, I really didn't want the ending of this show to be this depressing.
Well,
I was hoping for a more inspirational story to happen. But I don't know.
Sometimes things just die. Is that inspirational enough for you?
Sure. I don't know. But our condolences for all the people who obviously worked and whose jobs I guess will never come back, and of course for those of us who love the movies, and there are going to be a lot less theaters out there, and that's a shame. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and close out our show today. Thank you, Peter, for being here, and thank you all for listening. As a reminder, you can listen to our podcast every single Sunday, sometimes Thursdays, anywhere you listen to podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and YouTube. And I am done. Stay under the spotlight, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.